Hey, this is Jay. This is a quick tutorial for a PDF to Monday.com data system using GPT and n8n. So we are going to extract some data from a PDF like this. So I have my example fake PDF customer intake form, and we're going to take some of this data out and we're going to load it into Monday.com. And so let me go ahead and actually show this in action. So I'm going to add an arbitrary item here, and I'm going to upload this PDF. So I have my customer file data column. I'm going to add that PDF here. And then once that's added, I am going to trigger the workflow off of a webhook of a status change. So go ahead and execute this workflow. Then I will change the status to input customer data, and we should get some data in this row. So we get our automation is running down to the bottom right, and we should see this going through some data. And then once it is done, we should get some data that populates in Monday.com. GPT has been struggling a little bit tonight. So there we go. So we've got some data populated on the row. And just to verify, we have July 3rd was the date that it was signed. So that looks correct. Alex Johnson, Main Street, Anytown, Florida. Alex Johnson, Main Street, Anytown, Florida. And then my email is down here and phone number right here. So successful execution of the workflow. So let's go ahead and walk through the whole thing. I'm going to actually create a new one. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to open up a new one. Okay. So I am using a webhook, and in this case, I'm doing a Monday.com webhook. I'm going to fly through this a little bit quicker than maybe understandable, but I have another video where I actually talk about this, but I'm going to go ahead and actually we'll go ahead and build it out. So let's go ahead and start with a webhook. So say webhook, and we are going to do a post instead of a get. And in this case, I'm going to change this UID to something that's like a little more useful. So say customer data input. That way it's just a little more readable so you can know what's going on if you happen to see this URL somewhere else. But if you go ahead and click here, then go ahead and copy that URL. And actually one more step here, rather than immediately, we are going to respond with the respond to webhook node. So we're going to change immediately to using respond to webhook node. And I'm going to go ahead and set up the rest of this too, because this system's a little weird. But what we need to do is check and see if there is a challenge. So I'm going to grab this from the other one. So I need json.body.challenge. So the first time we call the webhook, json.body.challenge will be in the payload. So I'm going to say if that's not empty, then we are going to call on the true path the respond to webhook. So respond to webhook, and we're going to use JSON. So instead, we're going to say, okay, we're just going to grab this respond to webhook body. We're going to say, okay, here's the challenge value that Monday.com is looking for, because it just wants to verify that, like, hey, is this the right webhook? Are we allowed to do this? So we're going to do that. So all we're doing is respond to webhook. We changed it to respond with JSON, and we're just going to return the value of the challenge that was sent in the body. And so that part is good to go. We will be able to execute that in a second. So again, now we're going to actually grab the URL. And then if you're doing this with Monday.com, of course, that's how this would work. So you would say automate, and you're going to create a automation from templates. And I'm going to look for a webhook, and I want to create a status change to something, send a webhook. So I'm going to say, okay, cool. And let's actually first, don't even get to do that yet. So now we have to verify that we're allowed to use the webhook. So this is where we paste in the webhook URL. And then I can say, okay, let's actually don't test it just here. I want to test the whole thing because it has to respond back. So I'm going to say execute webhook. This will execute the whole workflow. So when I hit connect, this ideally should then, there we go, get its response of the challenge body. So actually, if I go back to this, you can see that it found the body, found the challenge, saw that it wasn't empty, and then we were able to send it back. So Monday.com was like, okay, cool, you're allowed to use this. So we're good to go with on that part. So now I can say when status changes to, and I'm just using input customer data, then that's what will kick off this webhook. So the only thing is that this is actually connected for the test. So I'm going to say, and you can see down below, actually all caps kind of helps. I'm going to put a description of testing just to kind of remind myself that this is for testing. You would need to actually set up the production URL as a separate webhook, which is kind of annoying, but that's just how Monday.com operates, so it's fine. But anyway, so this is good to go. So that webhook is ready to be used in the future. So now that we actually have connected, we've got some data. Let's do this one more time because we actually want it to go into the false path. So let's go ahead and change this to be something else. So we'll say done. Yay, done. Nice. Okay, and then actually I'm going to go ahead and execute workflow again. And then that will give us a chance to get some data for the current Monday.com item. And so you can see the automation's running. It's not really going to do anything. So cool. So this time we have an item. We have no response or no challenge body this time. But we can now get our Monday.com data. So I'm going to say Monday.com. And I'm going to say get an item. And the item ID is going to come from the very not obvious pulse ID. That is actually the item that I guess caused the webhook pulse. So they called it pulse ID rather than item ID. So go ahead and execute that. Oh yeah, can't do that. So we actually have to turn this into text. So I'm going to say after pulse ID dot to JSON string. It's called, oh wait. ToString rather, not JSON string. There we go. ToString, and then Monday.com is happy. So there we go. All right, cool. So we have our Monday.com item data, which means we have all the data from this current row that triggered the webhook. So now I want to just get the customer data file. So in this case, I'm going to do a set, and we're going to do edit fields set. And I just want to grab the files data. And Monday.com has already provided a PDF or provided a JSON payload basically for that. So I know that my customer files column was down here at the bottom. That's where I uploaded the PDF. The value, we can just drag in here. So the value of that PDF is here. It's got some metadata for it. So if we go ahead and execute that, we turn that into an actual n8n formatted JSON object. So this is good to go. Really, all we're after here is the asset ID, because now we need to get that PDF specifically so we can download it. So to be able to do that, we're going to do a HTTP request node, and it's going to be a post because we are going to call the Monday.com API. So I need to get the URLs for those files. So I'm going to grab this URL. So the base URL for calling their API is api.monday.com/v2. And then I've already authenticated with Monday.com because I was able to use the Monday.com node. So I can just use my predefined credentials here. And then I can just go search for the credentials for Monday.com API. And then the only other thing we need to do here is send in a body. So say using JSON. And I'm going to cheat here and steal the already formatted GraphQRL query. So we are querying for the asset IDs. And I'm just going to delete that so I can show you that this is like this part's all obviously static. So this part never changes. All we need to do is drag in the ID that we were able to access from here. So that's why I broke this out into its own thing. So I can just drag the asset ID in here directly. And that should work. That'll say, hey, this is the asset specifically that I want to be able to download. Can you send me the URL? And there we go. So that returns back the data for that. Public URL is all that we're after. URL like this will not work because it's protected static. So n8n won't be able to actually download the file from it. We had to request the actual public URL, which basically gives temporary access to be able to download it. So after that, we have the URL for the document, but we need to actually download the document. So we're going to do another HTTP request. And we are going to do a get, and we're just going to drag the public URL in because we're just going to call that, and that should download the document. But we will do one extra step here. Let's do an add option. Just to be safe, we're going to say response. So we are expecting a response of file so that we can specify that we get data binary back. So all of that can stay the same. Data is n8n's kind of default binary handling. So we'll go ahead and execute that. And there we go. So we have our binary of data, but it's actually the data for the PDF that we want to be able to pull data out of. So now we have the PDF binary data. So Now we can use n8n to extract the data. So that we have an extract from file node, and we can just say extract from PDF. So we just downloaded our PDF binary. Now we can extract it. So just adding that node, nothing has to change here. As long as data matches data, then we're good to go, or whatever you called it. And then that should give us data about our PDF. So this info part is just kind of like metadata about the actual file itself. You just kind of ignore that, which you saw me automatically collapse it. But we also get the text. So this is all the text that it found on the PDF. But it's in, a just plain text format. So that's not going to go into Monday.com very cleanly, unless you just want to dump it all into one column, which could. But this is where we're going to use GPT to help out. So I'm going to say OpenAI. So we're going to message a model. And I'm going to go with GPT Mini, GPT-5 Mini, because nothing too crazy going on here, but there's a little bit of thinking. And GPT-5 Mini seems to be a pretty strong thinking model, even for the cost. So let's go ahead and prompt this up. So I'm going to say, given the text extracted from a customer intake PDF, create or assign data to the appropriate row in Monday.com. If you are not sure where to assign the data, you can skip it. Here is the text. And then we'll pass in the text from the PDF. One thing I've learned, phone numbers. If you're using a phone number column, phone numbers should be numbers only, no symbols. Return a JSON object like this. All right. And I'm going to kind of shape the data a little bit just to make sure that it plays nicely with Monday.com. But to be able to update Monday.com, we can actually use the Monday.com node to update multiple columns at the same time, but it expects it to be in a kind of a specifically formatted JSON object. So we are going to build that out. So Monday.com is expecting column IDs. So what we're going to do is say, so like in this case, this is the date that the document was signed. So I want the column ID for date, and then it should provide the date here. You provide date here. And then after that, I want the customer name. So I want this is my customer name column, but I want the ID of the column. So column ID here, and then name. Then the address. So I want the column ID for the first address. This is for address 1. And then address 2. So I'm going to grab column ID for that. Address 2. And then I think the rest of my data is a little bit further down. So we go down to the bottom here. So I know my email column here. So I'm going to grab the ID for email column. So email. And last but not least, the phone number. So I'm going to drag in column ID for phone. And this one I'll actually kind of provide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, just to further emphasize that it should be a plain phone number, not with symbols. But kind of a straightforward prompt. In this case, we're going to kind of rely on GPT to handle most of the matching of the data. It should be able to figure it out based on the text, and it's pretty straightforward. So given the text extracted from a customer intake PDF, assign data to the appropriate row in Monday.com. If you are not sure where to assign the data, you can skip it. So here's text, and we've got all our text from the document. So Alex Johnson, phone number, email, blah, blah, blah. And then phone number should be numbers only, no symbols, and then return a JSON object like this. So it should hopefully return the date, name, address, email, phone number. Cool. So that should be good to go. Let's go ahead and close that and give it a shot. Shouldn't take too long. This isn't too heavy of an ask. Cool. Actually, one thing here, I will do output as JSON instead. And so That way it should save us a step of having to convert that plain text into JSON. So if it works as expected, we should hopefully get some draggable items back. There we go. Honestly, it doesn't really matter too much. We probably could just have it send in the text payload as it did, but just to be a little bit easier. But there we go. So that's our data. Now, last thing we need to do is send it back to monday.com to be able to update those columns. So I'm going to do monday.com node. We're going to do change multiple column values for a board item. In this case, we're going to do the invoice board. And then the item ID we can get from the beginning. So we found the ID a while ago here at the get item. So we just drag that ID back in, saying this is the item that we want to update. And then we can drag in the content. So I can just drag in that content object directly. But this is a JSON object. So I'm going to do the classic to JSON string. And there we go. So that's what monday.com is expecting. It's expecting a JSON string. So basically just the JSON object in string format. So that should be good to go. And if we look at that, it just is basically the same thing back that we wrote out a minute ago. So before I do that, I'll go ahead and delete this data because ideally this will go ahead and re-add it. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And then if we execute this, we hopefully get a success. So we got an ID back to say that it was successful. And if we go back to monday.com, all the data is back. So we've got the date, name, address 1, address 2, and then we've got email and phone number. So there we go. Pretty straightforward. Again, this is also pretty heavily specific to monday.com. I mean, really, this could be used for anything. The real power here is just being able to just download whatever the file is. So wherever you get your PDF from, if you need to upload it or whatever, but you can just extract the data from it directly. So there's nothing fancy going on there. This is a default node available in n8n all the time to just be able to take, as long as you can get the binary of the PDF somewhere from downloading it, then you can extract the text from it. But then being able to transform it into wherever. So if you wanted to, whatever your CRM might be, just use GPT with some pretty, specific instructions to make sure it matches the expected output for the CRM. But you can turn PDF data like this one into monday.com data like this. So hopefully this was helpful. I will be doing more tutorials like this, of course. I think maybe some WhatsApp or more social media message based workflows in the future here. Getting a lot of requests for that, but definitely appreciate the comments and requests. So please keep them coming. Thank you very much for watching. I guess I will actually have this workflow in a link down below. So if you want to be able to get to that, you can. But again, yes, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.